Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Just Ask. When you have a question, just ask. My name is Sam, aka Just Casual. First question we have is from Seth Biddulph. I think that's how you pronounce it. He asks, what's the biggest barrier to video content / streaming? Do you ever reach a point where you feel like you've gone too far in the production process and then have to dial back? And how do you recognize it? So let's tackle that first part. What's the biggest barrier? I think that can be very based on the individual, but as the general answer for people, I think it is making good content, coming up with really good ideas and executing on those good ideas. I think the barrier of entry is super low now. People can be streaming on their laptops, they can be streaming off their phone, people can be making video content on their phone like I do, and almost everyone carries a smartphone in their pocket. I think people might have said like the cost of a camera at one point, but now I feel like things are super, super accessible already. It's actually making and coming up with good ideas and executing on those good ideas. I think it comes down to if you have a bad product, if you have a bad stream, if you have a bad YouTube channel, if you're making bad Instagram posts, nothing's going to happen to those. If you make good content though, that has a chance of gaining traction and followers and finding whatever metric of success you have with that. So I think really making the good product is one of the hardest parts. Now, I think there's a lot of things that can fall under this category of a barrier. I think self-confidence, I think resources when it comes to like time and effort. I don't think money is going to be a big barrier for a lot of people. And I know that I'm speaking from like a middle-class person, someone that lives a middle-class life, but most people have phones. Most people have access to like even a laptop webcam. People can make content and produce it well enough. It's just that we are comparing ourselves to people like Ninja, who has like probably tens of thousands of dollars invested into a stream, or YouTube channels that have like these crazy multiple camera angles, multiple cameras, people working for them. And to be honest, all of those people started much smaller and less good quality. So I don't think it's actually that important. And I think it's something that you scale at. So I think money is not a huge barrier to people, with a nice asterisk on that comment. Other barriers could be lack of understanding or knowledge. And I think the biggest thing would be motivation. People lose steam, lose motivation. So those are some other side notes that I have listed. If you want me to talk about that, let me know in the comments. Now addressing the production process, I think there are good parts and bad parts of this production process and dialing it back. I think good parts are during brainstorming. Specifically, my work with the Golden Guardians, when we come up with content ideas, we're not trying to do what everyone else is doing. We're trying to do new stuff and trying to break the mold and create things that people have never seen before. Or at least, if we're stealing ideas, we're trying to do them much, much better and bringing our own taste and flair into it. You know what Picasso said, like good artists borrow, great artists steal, that kind of concept. But either way, when we go through that brainstorming process, which is part of the production process, we come up with crazy ideas that eventually we actually do have to dial back because of practicality of it, because deadlines. And I still think that's good because eventually you get the meat of the good content, or what we think is good content, through these crazy brainstorming sessions. Because if you just have a basic brainstorm, you're just going to come up with ideas that you've already seen before and not really original crazy ideas where we think out of the box. And also with these crazy ideas, they inspire other ideas that may be better and that might be more practical. So I think there's parts of the production process where you want to reach a little too far and then slowly dial it back. You just have to understand that you're going to dial it back, and that may or may not be acceptable. You have to actually see that where that line is, right? Now, on the bad part of things, where a production process actually hurts the creation, I think it's really bad when you actually stop creating. An example of this is with my 100th episode of Just Casual Vlogs. I was pretty steadily doing Just Casual Vlogs for like 2 years when I was like pretty much unemployed. Then once I started getting some freelance gigs, I was doing it less and I had less to talk about. And then I moved out here and it was busy and I wasn't happy with my setup. The vlogs looked bad. And I was trying to do more with my vlogs and actually like do some editing practices and putting like B-roll into them. And I realized eventually that started meaning that I was putting less vlogs out. So that's a production process where it actually hurt me and prevented me from putting out content. So I think when we talk about like when do you recognize the production process is actually hurting you, it's when, specifically for me, I noticed that when I stop producing as much content, that is when my production process is too difficult. And also you have to be really introspective and audit yourself, because that could also be that I'm not putting the time that I need to. I'm too lazy, or my situation has changed and I just can't. Now, that being said, I don't necessarily think quantity is greater than quality. And I think there's been a lot of people, and I myself included, have said like quantity is really, really important. I don't think you need to be streaming 7 days a week for 8 hours to grow your Twitch channel or your streaming channel, whatever streaming platform you're on. I don't think you need to upload 3 videos a day on YouTube to grow. That being said, we see examples of this with Matt Diavella or Peter McKinnon, where they post maybe like once a month and they grew like 13 million subscribers over that year or something absolutely ridiculous. Like 1 million, 13 million. There's case studies out there where we've seen that. And that's because they're making good content and they're making stuff that people haven't seen and things that people want to see. And they're like, whoa, this is crazy. So I think there is that importance in deciding whether quality or quantity is more important. I think the metric now and should be is how do you make the highest quality thing you can without sacrificing too much quantity. Let's take, for instance, Matt Diavella's channel. He made 12 videos last year or something like that. What would have happened if he made 1 video? I don't think he would have had as much success. I don't think he would have had as much traction, because at some point, editing a video over and over again and reshooting the video over and over again, or like polishing it to get that 1% increase is not worth it, right? So there's a balance on how much content am I trying to produce? Am I able to give my audience enough value? Am I editing too much where like it doesn't really matter? Am I streaming more hours when it's not that important? Like, for example, with the streamer, instead of streaming 8 hours to a few viewers, what would have happened if I streamed 4 hours to the viewers and spent 4 hours figuring out ways to bring more people to my stream, like making YouTube content, being on Instagram, finding ways to collaborate with other streamers, like these kind of things. So I don't think quantity is like the be all on this. So if my production process is hurting my quantity and it's increasing my quality in a place where there's not as much return for that time spent, I think that's where you recognize, and that's what you really need to audit to figure out, is my production process going too far? So ultimately, I think people need to think a little bit more. I think don't think too much, because that can prevent you from putting out stuff, like my example with the Just Casual Vlog. And then you really need to audit yourself to make sure like the content is good, and am I spending my time am I spending the right time on the right things with production quality versus quantity? Thanks, Seth, for that question. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any follow-up questions, Seth, if you have any follow-up questions, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up in the comments below, because I'm only able to make these videos because you guys have questions and you just asked them. See you guys next time.